One of the most contentious bills in Washington state this year is House Bill 1296, and a lot of people know it as the bill to gut the Parents' Bill of Rights. This bill did pass, and it is now sitting on the governor's desk to be signed. The bill went through many iterations and versions throughout the session, and in this video, I'm going to tell you about the version of the bill that's passed and what you, as a parent and a citizen, need to know. Hey, everybody, I'm Julie Barrett, founder of Conservative Ladies of America. And today we're digging into another one of the bills that we've been tracking all session in Washington state that did get passed and will soon be signed into law by Governor Ferguson. That bill is House Bill 1296. A lot of you may know that as the bill to gut the Parents' Bill of Rights, which was Initiative 2081, which was sponsored by Let's Go Washington. In 2023 is when they did the signature collecting. There were over 400,000 Washington state citizens that signed the initiative, which the initiative then had two tracks. The legislature could pass the initiative, or they could put it on the ballot in 2024 for a vote of the people. Well, the legislature chose to pass the bill in 2024. They even got up on the Senate floor and the House floor when they gave their speeches. They said, "We will come back and repeal this bill and fix it if it puts any of the LGBTQ students in jeopardy." So what the original Parents' Bill of Rights did was it gave parents access to education records, including medical records and mental health records, and to know if their child was maybe taken off campus to a youth shelter or a host home. The reason for that was in 2023, the legislature passed Senate Bill 5599, which allows a child to undergo so-called gender affirming care without notifying the parents. They can actually put the child into a host home or a youth shelter, and the parents do not even get notified. Now, they have to notify law enforcement, but they do not have to notify the parents. So this was an effort to bring parents back into the loop, to allow parents to be notified if that sort of thing was happening. And of course, the Democrats did not want that, because 5599 was really their prized bill of 2023. And they're very concerned about protecting access to so-called gender affirming care for their LGBTQ kids in Washington state. When Initiative 2081 was passed through the legislature in 2024, we at Conservative Ladies knew that the legislature would come back immediately to fix the issues with the Parents' Bill of Rights that they did not like. And the reason that they passed it is so that they could come back immediately in 2025 and repeal these sections that they didn't like. Had they put it on the ballot for a vote of the people, they would have had to wait 2 years. So that's kind of the history about how House Bill 1296 came to be. There was also a Senate bill, which was 5181, that did something similar, but House Bill 1296 had more what they are calling protections for students. It includes a Students' Bill of Rights. In the final days of this bill going through the legislative process, the Senate Democrats included another very bad bill, which is Senate Bill 5179, which puts restrictions on school board directors, locally elected school board directors. So that actually added like 10 or 11 pages to the final version of House Bill 1296. So let's dig in and go through this quickly, but piece by piece, so that you all have a good understanding of what this bill means for parents, children, and citizens of Washington state. First up, we have a new section where they are defining the protected classes of students. They've added new categories of protected students to include gender expression, which means the external appearance of one's gender identity, usually expressed through behavior, clothing, body characteristics, or voice, and which may or may not conform to socially defined behaviors and characteristics typically associated with being either masculine or feminine. Now, most of us know, especially if you are a parent, you know that your child goes through many phases, especially during their teenage years. They go through many phases, maybe wanting to dress a certain way, maybe wanting to wear a certain kind of makeup. That is not unusual during adolescence. And so, this idea of gender expression is very concerning because a child could be going through a certain phase. And now, as adults, we're going to recognize this phase as a protected class. This is particularly concerning, in my opinion, as a mother of a child, a girl who has been a tomboy for her entire life. Just because she might like to wear baggy shorts and baggy t-shirts and it has, the appearance of masculine, doesn't mean that that's her gender expression. And what we have seen in our family, what happened with her in Washington state schools is people would see her outward appearance and sort of put her into that gender box. And so this is a very dangerous thing, and kids are so impressionable. So this is very concerning. The next definition that's noteworthy in here is gender identity. Gender identity means a person's internal sense of being male, female, both, neither, or in between, independent of how it is expressed or perceived by others. This is really scary to me because they are really taking advantage of kids during their formative years where they might be feeling awkward during certain stages. And so they're giving this impression to kids that they can choose their gender, they can not have a gender. And so this is very, very concerning that this is now a definition that is Washington state law. The last definition that I want to bring to your attention is sexual orientation. Sexual orientation means an individual's enduring pattern of romantic, emotional, or sexual attraction to people of the same gender, a different gender, or multiple genders. I think it's very dangerous that they are wanting to make such a big deal out of sexual orientation and, a child's romantic feelings or who they are sexually attracted to. Even putting these thoughts into a child's mind, that this should be something that they are focused on and should be concerned about and should have protections for. Schools are really no longer a place to go for education, but they really are indoctrination centers, especially in a place like Washington State. A couple other new classes in the bill are neurodivergence, which would include people who have ADHD or who are on the autism spectrum and any other kind of disability. It also includes a student's homeless status and immigration status. So these are all new categories that have new definitions per Washington state law. The bill also has a Students' Bill of Rights, which will be formulated and posted by the OSPI, which is the Office of Superintendent of Public Instruction for Washington State. The bill includes a number of rules for school districts to make sure that they post this and make sure that students are aware of their rights as a student. Now, Section 3 of this bill is where they pull in Senate Bill 5179, which, as Senator Jim McCune called it, a snitch line for school boards to the OSPI. In some parts of the state, you had school boards who are trying to comply with the executive orders coming out of the Trump administration, where they are not to allow boys in girls' sports or in girls' private spaces. Also, you have the DEI executive order that Trump signed. And so you have school boards that are trying to comply with federal law. But Washington State, as you probably know if you live in Washington, has a very different set of laws and values. And so this is what they want to prevent from happening. They want to have an enforcement mechanism for school boards that may not be complying with Washington State laws. Section 301 of the bill addresses these school boards that are not in compliance with state laws. It says the legislature is aware that some school districts are intentionally not complying with certain requirements in state law, and that this noncompliance is negatively impacting students. So there you can see they are addressing the school boards around the state that are passing resolutions in their school district to separate the boys and the girls, or the DEI policies, or whatever it may be. Last session, the Washington State Legislature passed a bill that requires Washington State schools to teach LGBTQ history. And there were a few districts around the state where the school board said, we are not going to do that in our district. And so that's one of the things that the legislature is trying to address here. The section goes on to give a number of ways that people can report these complaints and how the complaints will be handled by the state and how parents can file complaints. And then in section 310 of the bill, it actually changes the oath of office for school board directors. It reads that every person elected or appointed to the office of school director before entering upon the discharge of the duties thereof shall take an oath or affirmation to support the Constitution of the United States and the state of Washington and the laws of the state of Washington, and to faithfully discharge the duties of the office according to the best of his or her abilities. Now, that underlined part that I have highlighted in green, and the laws of the state of Washington, that is what they have included. That underlined part is the new part here to the oath of office. The new oath of office then would force a school board director to comply with the laws that are coming out of Olympia. Okay, let's dig into the parents' rights portion of this bill. There's been a lot of confusion about the notification to parents if their child has been sexually assaulted or the victim of a crime, that they would not be notified immediately, but rather the school district would have 48 hours. And that is actually not true. As you can see here in the text of the bill, the school district would be required to give immediate notification to parents if their child had been a victim of a crime at school. So I want to there's been a lot of misinformation going around about that. That was in one of the versions of this bill, but the version of the bill that passed into law says that parents would get immediate notification. Now, the most troubling thing to me about this bill is that it strikes out repealing parent access to medical records and mental health records. If your child was taken off campus to receive so-called gender affirming care or an abortion, or your child was sent to a host home or a youth shelter, you no longer get notified per this bill. And what that does, that's not new in Washington. Okay. So that's what people really need to understand, is that is repealing it back to before 2024 when Initiative 2081 was passed. So if you've had children in Washington state schools for a number of years, that has been the law of the land. So we have just reverted back to what it was before. Another piece of information about this bill that there's been a lot of misunderstanding about is that you would not be notified if your child was removed from campus. And in the bill that passed does give parents notification if their child is removed from campus. Now, I want to remind you that so-called gender affirming care and abortion are protected health care, and parents don't have the right to know about that. So if they were being taken from campus for either of those reasons, parents would not get notified. But any other reason, parents would get notified. I can't think of a reason why your student would be removed from campus, though. But if they were, they would be notified in all other cases. Parents really need to understand that Washington state public schools, and really public schools around the country, are not the best place for students right now. They are really heavily influenced by the teachers' unions and by the CDC and other groups that are pushing in these community schools concept, which wants to make schools one-stop shopping for these children. They truly are indoctrination centers. And so we really want to encourage parents to do everything in your power to get your kids out of the public school system. We believe that homeschooling is best. Now, I know that that just sounds impossible probably to a lot of parents. And so what we're trying to do is pull together a number of resources. We're going to have a new website up soon with homeschool resources for people, so that you have a site you can go to and find a variety of different kinds of resources that we have fully vetted and made sure that they align with our conservative values. So if you are in alignment with what we as conservative ladies of America stand for, you will probably appreciate this homeschool resource. We also have a virtual event coming up on May 6th, where we have brought together some of the biggest, loudest voices for the homeschool movement across the country, including HSLDA, which is the Homeschool Legal Defense Association. I believe I got that right. We'll have Robert Bortons from from Classical Conversations as well. And we will have Jonathan and Adriana Prescott from Homeschool Life in Kennewick, Washington. And they wrote the book Kids Don't Need School. We'll also have Homeschool Supply Company on board for this event. It's going to be an information and resource packed live stream on our YouTube channel. Again, it's May 6th. It'll be 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern. And I encourage you to watch this. If you've got kids in public school and you're really concerned about them and you want to find a way to do something different, come and watch this and at least like start brainstorming and get the juices, the creative juices flowing so you can try to find an alternate education form for your children. Lastly, this bill has an emergency clause. So unless Governor Ferguson vetoes that clause, it will take effect immediately upon signing. And I would imagine that he will probably sign the bill this week. Today is April 28th. So I imagine sometime this week, House Bill 1296 will get signed into law and will take effect immediately. So if you have children in public schools in Washington State now, this will take effect before the school year is out. So please be on guard, have conversations with your children, be in communication with your kids, and monitor their social media activity, know who their friends are and who their teachers are, and really try to be involved. Please do share this video far and wide. We need parents and citizens to know what's going on so that they are not blindsided if a crisis hits like I was back in 2021. And I hear of parents from Washington every day who are in a crisis situation. I heard about a family this weekend who actually had their children taken. It's a horrific situation. When you have all this information, at least you can take proactive steps to protect your children and your family. So please share the video. We'd love to hear from you. Leave a comment below. Let us know what your thoughts are on this bill. If you do have children in Washington public schools, would love to hear if you're thinking about doing something different. Please make sure that you are subscribed to our YouTube channel and to our Substack so that you get breaking alerts and calls to action delivered right to your inbox. Thank you so much for watching. I look forward to seeing you in the next video.